I do indeed, because, Brian, it's time for the Radio Rumble. There you go. A new Gallup poll shows the majority of Americans disapprove of a lot of what Congress has done recently. Just take a look at that. They don't like the bank bailouts, the national health care, auto bailout, stimulus, although they do kind of like the financial reform. So does this spell more bad news for Democrats, and are vulnerable Democrats ducking public events ahead of some hotly contested races? Joining us right now for this week's Radio Rumble, we've got New York City-based radio talk show host David Webb. We've got Milwaukee-based radio talk show host James T. Harris, and Washington, D.C.-based radio talk show host Mark Levine. Mark, I'm going to start with you. Why does it appear that the nation does not like what Washington has done so far?
Well, let's talk first about what they do like. The reason they like financial reform is because they know the Republicans and Bush in Congress allow big banks to play with trillions of dollars, have a great party, and all of us woke up with a hangover. They don't want it to happen again. For the same reason, they don't like the bailouts supported by both Republicans and Democrats, Bush and Obama, even though they were absolutely necessary. Without them, we would have had the Great Depression. So now for the stimulus, things like that, health care, they're waiting to see that it works. 40% of Americans support or oppose everything the president does. The other 20% says wait till it works, and some of these things take time.
David, don't you think perhaps what's at play here is the fact that the American people are smart, and they realize that Washington has completely overreached and stuck their hand in our pocket, and we don't like it?
Pretty well said. What am I supposed to say now? Look, Mark's still dreaming, and Mark, you must still be sleeping and dreaming, because the American people looked at, rammed through policies since 2006, amped up policies, takeover of health care. And yeah, financial regulation, we need some reform. We need to enforce the laws. So they don't mind that. But the American people are smarter than the Democrats hope. And that's the problem.
James T., it does appear that, you know, a lot of Democrats are running away not only from their moniker, they don't even put Democrat in some of their ads, but they're running away from the president. They haven't appeared at events where he's at. And in fact, they've adopted a lot of the GOP talking points.
That's what the big surprise here is. You know, just in time for Halloween, you have Democrats dressing up like Republicans, running away from the president and stealing the playbook from the Republicans using their talking points. It all goes to show that in this present cycle, if you don't sound like a conservative or start to act like a conservative, you can't be a Democrat.
Yeah, and Mark, speaking of the Democrats are already planning on what to do if and when they lose the majority. You know, the conventional wisdom is that Nancy Pelosi is going to be out. Steny Hoyer may take over as a minority leader, but then there are some who are saying, look, he's part of our leadership team, and they stunk up the joint. Let's get rid of all of them.
Well, Steve, don't measure the drapes just yet. I think as soon as the American people learn the Republican agenda, things like cutting Social Security benefits so that every million in America gets $100,000 and increase our deficit by $700 billion, once they learn what Republicans truly stand for, which is warmed over Bush proposals, I think they'll come back home and give Democrats a chance to finish cleaning up the mess Republicans made.
David?
Well, now we know why there's no liberal talk radio for any audience. Because when you live in a dream world, Mark, where you spout just rhetoric and maybe not quite the facts.
That's right, Dave. You love those warmed over Bush proposals, don't you?
Yeah,
you want to go back to the great years of 07 and 08, right?
No, Mark, we just deal in facts as conservatives, and the fact is the Americans have looked at it. They've measured the Democrats. They've measured the progressives like yourself, and you've been found wanting.
Oh, really?
You know what John Boehner wants to do? He wants to end the mortgage interest deduction. Republicans, I mean, does Americans support that? I don't think so.
David?
You know, Mark, again, you can pick apart pieces of legislation, but no matter what you do, no matter what you throw out there, they're not going to forget, whether they're Tea Partiers or whether they're people who agree with those principles. When they close the curtain, you're done at the voting booth.
Okay. James T., I want you to weigh in here from Chicago as well. It was interesting what Evan Bayh said. He had a conversation with Katie Couric yesterday on tape, and he said essentially that the Obama advisors, you know, their heart's in the right place, and they're idealistic, but they probably really overreached. They just overdid it a little too much.
They did overreach. They thought they had a mandate when they only had like 53% of the vote, and they had both houses of Congress. They had their ideology, and they went for it. I can't blame them for that. But all of the The dreams that the Democrats have had for the last 40, 50 years, they put them all into play. They got everything they wanted, really, but the American people were not on board with it, and now you're seeing the backlash. Both parties are in trouble here, but it's the Democrats that are going to pay the price in December for Obama's agenda.
All right, we're going to have to end it right there for right now. David, James, and Mark, a terrific Radio Rumble for this Tuesday. All right, Gretchen, Brian, over to you.